Hello again, I am Blunty, and this is part 3 of the progressively more interesting exploration of my new Japanese import PlayStation Vita. We've had the unboxing, we've had the startup, so this time around we're going to look at the hardware itself in a little bit more detail, and then the general interface and concepts of operating the device. So let's start around the arse end. All of you will already be aware. This whole area here, lots and lots and lots of those classic little triangles, circle, X, square, PlayStation iconography on the back there, and that entire area where it covers is in fact the rear touch panel. Don't call it a rear touch screen because it is not a screen. That's a little niggle that's been bugging me ever since this thing was first announced, and they said, oh, we've got a touch panel on the back. People have been calling it a touch screen. It's not a screen! Obviously not a screen! It's a panel! It's made of plastic and it sounds kind of hollow, but you know, the entire device feels pretty well made. It doesn't torsion very much when you try and twist it around, and it doesn't squeak or crack very much when you give it a bit of a squeeze wrong. So yeah, the general build quality is pretty good. I've got a couple of little pads here where your fingers rest when you're got your hand wrapped around it. They're not sort of rubberized, they're just sort of plastic, and they're very, very slightly recessed. This little panel door here is where the SIM card is. And by the way, if you're buying a PlayStation Vita, make sure you've got nails, because all these little doors around the edges, you've got no hope of getting at them if you haven't got fingernails. So if I can dig this out here, that is where your SIM card goes. And that actually comes pre-installed in the device itself, so you don't have to put it in there. It's inside and out of the box, and I would presume it may well be the same for wherever you get it in the countries. You know, here in Australia it'll be Vodafone, in the States it'll be AT&T, and I'm not sure who's doing it in the UK, I forget. Anyway, so swing it around, and we've got a couple more doors up on the top. The first one is where your game cards go. So if we grab a game card here, and by the way, you can actually put these in the wrong way around and upside down, and there's no handy little locking mechanism to make sure you put them in the right way, so be mindful. Pins go down into the back. The label faces you as it goes in and locks in, much like SD cards do, with a little click click. So you have to get your finger in there and go click click and pop it out, and then try and get a grip on the little edge that comes out. No, there it is. A little bit fiddly, but you know. Next door, next to that, is a little accessory port of some description. It doesn't match anything I'm familiar with. It's got a couple of little screw holes either side, much like the PSP did for I think the camera attachment was the only thing that ever went into the little mini USB slot on the top of it. So some sort of accessory port for some sort of accessories. Hopefully a decent camera or something will come along for it. I don't know, not really. Volume buttons, little metallized buttons, probably metal. Yeah, they're probably plastic actually by the feel of it. And your power button over there as well. And of course, left and right shoulder buttons. Around the bottom, we have a piece of yellow tape where I've blocked out my serial number, and the USB charging port there, and headphone port there. Boring. So that's about it for the sides. By the way, this metallic looking ring that goes around the outside, that's very, very iPhone-like, and unmistakably inspired by the iPhone design, I think, is not metal at all, but plastic, as is the entire construction of it. Even the screen is not glass, but plastic, which should make it fairly rugged. Alright, on the face of it, we've got your PlayStation button, your select and start, your control pads, and your thumbsticks, of course. Now, in a little more detail, as I mentioned in the unboxing video, the D-pad is actually a full cross this time, instead of the separate buttons that you get on most other Sony-based controls. I don't know why it's taken them this long to do that. This is a better design, especially if you like fighting games and stuff like that. It just feels better to be able to rock around on it. It's much more comfortable for long periods of play. I've had many battles and adventures in Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom using the control pad here in a fighting game, which is pretty much what they exist for these days, as opposed to the analog sticks. And yeah, I got gamer's thumb, of course, but it's very, very responsive, very, very quick. It has a subtle, sort of slightly spongy click to it, but in general, a very, very nice control pad. Same for the buttons. They've got a slight spongy click to it, very tactile and responsive. They're very, very small compared to what they used to be on the PSP. They're probably about half the size, actually, and the spacing is a little bit smaller, but again, even with my big thumbs that cover the entire four of them at once, I've had absolutely zero problem in game using them. They do feel small. They are fairly pronounced out of the device, so you always know where they are. But yeah, no problems there. Thumbsticks, they feel a bit weird actually. I'm still not used to them, to tell you the truth. They've got quite a short pronouncement from the device itself, so if you're putting this into a pocket, they shouldn't protrude too much and poke into you. And I have carried this thing in a pocket when I was testing out the cameras yesterday, but we'll get to that in another video. But yeah, they feel good. They're very, very responsive, very, very sort of sensitive. When I've been playing a few demos and games and bits and pieces, the slightest sort of nudge will produce an in-game reaction. So, you know, they've worked pretty much like you expect thumbsticks to work. I do, quite frankly, prefer the circle pad on the 3DS. I think that's it's a better feel for a portable device, but I have no real complaints about these when used in-game. Naturally, it's a bit hard to tell because I'm filming the screen with the camera and then it's reprocessed through my editor and then reprocessed through YouTube, but take my word for it, this OLED screen on the PlayStation Vita, which is manufactured by Samsung, I believe, is truly spectacular. It is sharp and brilliant and lovely and high contrast, and the colors are rich and everything's really, really lovely. It is one of the best screens I've seen on a portable device. It is leaps and bounds above the screen on the 3DS, in case you're wondering. It is wildly better than even the screen on the PSP. It is a terrific, terrific screen. Unless, of course, you want to use it outdoors. Because if you use it outdoors, in direct sunlight, you can't see a fucking thing except your own reflection. This screen in particular washes out very, very easily outdoors. I can see my iPhone screen very, very easily when I'm outdoors, but this, no. This is an indoors kind of unit. This is an under the shade of a tree, maybe, kind of screen. But yeah, if you're outdoors in direct sunlight, you've got no hope, my friend. Zero hope at all. What else have I left out? Oh, the cameras. There's the front-facing camera, which is just there, and if I can get the light to catch it just right, there we go. Front-facing camera right there, and back-facing camera, quite a bit less hidden, sitting right there. I will get to the cameras in a dedicated video about the cameras, because like I said just now, I've been on a bit of a photo shoot with them and testing them out, and we'll get to those. Suffice to say, for now, I wasn't blown away by them. Speakers here and here, a couple of little 6 holes for each speaker. They sound slightly tinny, but pump out a decent volume and sound reasonably good for speakers on a portable device should sound. The positioning, I thought you may be covering them up with your thumbs or something when you're playing, but in actual fact they are positioned in just the right spot, so it's quite difficult to actually deliberately cover them up in most playing styles, so that worried me for no reason. They actually do the job fairly well. The sound from the headphone port, by the way, sounds fantastic. So if you're on a bus or a train or something while you're playing these things on a commute or whatever, you're going to be very, very happy with the headphone sounds. Now then, let's take a look at the interface. Alrighty, jump cut to a nice stable setup so I can show you the interface. This is your PlayStation Vita in standby mode. What you need to do to wake it up from standby mode is, of course, hit the little PlayStation button. 1, 2, 3, there we go, 3 or so seconds, and it, oh, someone pressed the button, I better wake up. I don't know what that delay's about, but it's freaking annoying, let me tell you that much. Maybe they can fix that in a firmware update. Anyway, so that's your lock screen. You peel that away to reveal your home screen. And this is actually quite a bit more elegant than the standard cross-media bar that Sony have been saddled with for so many years now. They've actually done something really nice and elegant. It's very intuitive. If you've ever used anything with a touchscreen, basically, you can swipe up and down between various pages of applications and games and bits and pieces, and you can arrange these however you like. You just press and hold for a second, and you can move stuff about within this grid, or you can delete stuff if you don't want it anymore or need to make room on your memory card or whatever. And each of these different screens you can set a different wallpaper or color effect to, so just go yellow for that one, I think. And there we are, and you can see you can arrange these however you like. That looks a little ugly and lopsided, so maybe I'll do this, and I'll put this here, and this one can go down here, and this one can go down here, and there we go. Now I'm happy. And as you scroll through these, the wallpaper, whatever, fades nice and elegantly to whatever is set for that current screen. So you can have a whole bunch of those and arrange stuff however you like, and go nuts basically, and it's all very wibbly and wobbly and everything bounces around and it's all very cute. So when you go to start stuff up, of course you tap on the icon, starts up, and it doesn't really start up, it goes into a kind of pre-starting maneuver where you get this little page where you can actually start it from, and these pages can be filled with live content that it can download dynamically, so it can show you what's new and what's the latest. If you've got a game, it can show you what the latest DLC is available, and you can tap on it, it'll take you to the store or whatever. So it's kind of useful but kind of annoying at the same time that it doesn't actually start the application you just tapped on to start. What you can do with these pages though is it allows you to have multiple instances open. So let's go settings there, and we'll swipe back and we'll say we'll do the game. So now I've got a whole bunch of stuff sitting there loaded up, so I can quickly get to it. And you don't have to kind of swipe to the end of the list to get what's at the end of your list. If you tap the PlayStation button, you get this kind of cover flow effect, another thing they've kind of borrowed from Apple perhaps, where you can instantly get to any of the pages you've got loaded up. So browser, and we go double tap and we get back to the home. So one tap to bring that up, I should have said. Double tap brings you back to your home at any point. And everything, by the way, everything, it's touchscreen. None of it works with the controls whatsoever. So if you don't like the idea of having to touch your screen on your game device because you leave greasy fingerprints there for when you're actually playing and you have to clean it all the time, you think, oh, I'll use the buttons instead, that way I don't have to touch it as often. Wrong! You have to touch it. Touch it! So something I do like about the built-in interface is it provides a built-in way to take screenshots. You can press the PlayStation and start buttons at the same time, and it goes snap, and then pauses you and puts the little thing up on the screen, getting in the way of whatever you were doing while it takes a screenshot. It does work in games. It does not work in all games. For some reason, some game producers have said, no, we don't want you to share screenshots of your gameplay experience, so F you. We're just going to disable your ability to take screenshots. Which is a bit of a sod move in my mind, but there you go. They can do it. They have done it. Marvel vs. Capcom won't let me take a friggin' screenshot. So, yeah, it's a bit hit and miss when it comes to games, but it's a nice little ability nonetheless. And, of course, once you've taken your screenshots, you can sort of get to them from your albums. So, reading the memory card. So we can, there we go. We've got a separate little folder for screenshots there. So there's some I took at the PlayStation Store, and it sorts them by application if you're doing it in application. So these are ones I've taken from within the PlayStation Store, and these are other, which is just general interface where it couldn't tell what I was doing. So once you've got your screenshots, or indeed your photos you've taken with the onboard cameras, you can then do things like use the live tweet application, which you download from the PlayStation Marketplace, to actually send them to the Twitters. So we'll do this, and you can go add, and you can either take a new thing, or you can do the hashtag or @mentioned, or in fact attach one of your images. So you get images there, and there it goes. So we can instantly add that screenshot I just took to a tweet and post it straight away, which I'm not going to do because then the people in my Twitter feed will just be confused about why I'm posting a interface screenshot. So whatever I mentioned it, okay, you've got the little row of icons up here, so you can, oops, I touched something, I barely touched it. You can see what's going on up the top of your screen there with those little row of icons, so you can tell, what you've got loaded and what order they're in really. This little bubble in the corner here is your sort of activity tab. So you tap it once and it tells you what the latest stuff you've had done. So the most recent thing I did, if you go more, it'll bring up a separate tab for you and load all your notifications. And if you've got downloads from the store, it'll tell you, what your downloads were, or if they're ongoing, or if they're paused, and how far along they are, and all that sort of stuff. So that's your general activity little monitor there. So there you are. There's your basic tour of the hardware and interface of the PlayStation Vita. To sum it up, everything works really, really nicely. It's very slick. It feels very well built. It feels very thoughtful. I haven't run into any weirdness or bizarre stuff or odd crap besides, people like Capcom saying, no, you can't take any screenshots of our game, because they're just dicks like that, I guess. So thanks for watching. I am Blunty. We'll catch you next time, where we will look at something else. Haven't decided what yet. I have a list. I'm going through it step by step. I just don't have an order for the list. Catch you next time.